Hello and welcome to Will Watches. This is the 5K Q&A. So just off the bat, of course, a big thank you to everyone for subscribing, for watching, for choosing to spend your time watching my channel. 5K is a huge milestone. I think especially in the reactor space, sometimes reaction channels, there's quite a few where I go and look at how many subscribers they've got and it's way lower than I actually thought it would be. So, not always views translates to subscribers in this space, you know what I mean? But it's a huge milestone. Thank you to everyone. So I've got a few questions here. I think I can get to all of them. It's not a case that I'm so big that I can't answer every question yet. I'm sure one day that day will come. So to start off, we've got some questions from Frank Freezy. Shout out to Frank. He's got a great channel as well. If you're into anime reactions especially, he's doing Vinland Saga 2. So the first one is, what's my favorite video game of all time? Asking favorite questions is always difficult to answer. My go-to answer is usually Super Mario Galaxy, although I feel like Breath of the Wild and now Tears of the Kingdom are both up there as well. I'd say it's kind of fluctuating between those three, but also up there. I love a lot of indie games, so Shovel Knight, Super Meat Boy, Celeste, Undertale, they're all really high up there as well, along with those. But I think Super Mario Galaxy, the first one especially, it was like my childhood game. I would sneak downstairs every day to play it before my parents woke up, get onto the Wii, play some Galaxy. And I prefer it much more to the first just because it's got so much atmosphere. It's just so rich in the storytelling and the atmosphere, Rosalina's story and the music. Oh, it's so good. And I love the hub world as well. I prefer it a lot more to Galaxy. And the next one, what is my filming and editing process like? So for filming, maybe I'll show you what I see on my screen. So I have my camera here, as you can see. I usually have a fan blowing on the camera to stop it from overheating. I've got quite a few panels for sound cancellation. And then my OBS looks like this. So instead of your 16:9 aspect ratio, I have it in a 32:9 aspect ratio. I have my screen recording on the left and then me on the right, and then in editing I cut those in half, so I have it already synced up, like me and the video. And I just use Firefox, an older version of Firefox that lets you screen record, pop that all into Premiere Pro, and then edit the intro. That's quite easy. Intro and the discussion are quite simple because it's just editing out the silences really. And then I go in, put my layer on top of the movie or TV show, whatever it is I'm watching. I put my layer on top, duplicate it, so there's actually 3 layers there. There's me, what will be the drop shadow for my little box that I'm in for most of the video, and then there is what I'm watching. I record in 30-minute increments. That's just so if something goes wrong with OBS that I haven't lost the whole video. I've never faked a reaction, but the first 10 minutes of the Mean Girls video was actually re-recorded because I forgot to hit record. So that helps avoid that kind of situation where I lose a whole video if something goes wrong. And then I literally just go through, watch the entire thing. When I say something where I want the background to be blurred, I move it up, I cut things down, and then I apply all the properties later. I just go in and copy the attributes and paste the attributes in Premiere Pro, and that's how I do it. After that, I go in, highlight all of the audio from the screen recording and do some audio ducking. That means that the audio for that is lower when I'm speaking, really simple. That's pretty much it. I go in, with a few like and subscribe prompts, maybe throw up the stuff to say follow my social media or whatever, pop in a few transitions, things like that. And that's pretty much it. It's simple editing, but it does take a while. It is time consuming. I'd say it takes between 2 to 3 or even 4 times the length of what I'm watching. So if I watch like a 3-hour movie, it would take 6 hours to edit minimum. I think for a 3-hour movie, it's much longer, like when I did The Batman, that took about 15 hours to edit. That was a really long edit. And of course, it all depends on how productive you are and how quickly you can go through. A big tip on Premiere Pro is clicking L. The L button doubles the speed of playback, so you can get through portions quicker, especially if there's like a portion of the video where I don't say much. It's just quicker to zoom through that, you know. A few more hints, I guess, is if you're recording on Mac like I am, download the SWB audio app, because Macs don't let you screen record and screen record sound at the same time. So I have to use that app, and that lets me screen record with the sound of the desktop, which is how I get the sound for all of the videos as well, for all of the movies and TV shows that I watch and react to. And then at the end of the recording, I do my like thumbnail faces, you know what I mean? I do that, and then you can just click Shift E and you can screenshot a frame and export a frame and then pop that into Photoshop. That's where I do my thumbnails. Upload it all. Is quite a simple process, really. The editing is just very time consuming, if more than anything. And then the final question from Frank: have I ever considered streaming? I think maybe the question's a bit outdated, because I have actually started streaming now over on Twitch. I've been doing some Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and I guess I might as well announce it now. I have got a PS5, so next, I haven't played any of the Insomniac Spider-Man games. So what I want to do is do Spider-Man PS4 Remastered, then Miles Morales, then Spider-Man 2. I think I might slide some things in between, because I have God of War Ragnarok on here. So maybe I'll do Spider-Man, God of War, Miles Morales, Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2. Or I was maybe also thinking of doing the Jedi Fallen Order games, Jedi Survivor, in those 2 slots as well. Depends what there's more interest in, if it's God of War or Star Wars, really. And next we have some questions from RG. RG has been a huge supporter of the channel, and he was moderator for all of the Dark reactions, so everyone give him some big thanks for that as well, keeping me spoiler free throughout Dark. So the first question: think back to your first reaction video that you uploaded on March of 2021, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Fast forward to now, walk us through how your reaction style, confidence, quality have evolved. Have you experimented to figure out what works for you? Yeah, in that first video, I had my reaction down in the corner in a little square. I started with that because I think that was probably easier for me to edit at the time. It didn't last long, that kind of style of editing. Eventually, I went to what I have now. I think that was inspired a bit more from like Seb Screen. He uses that style quite a lot, and I think that's really caught on, that style, over the kind of in the corner, low opacity, and then disappears when you're talking, that kind of style, where now it's the little box in the corner, then it pops up big in the center when you've got something to say. That's the style that I prefer to do now. I feel like it looks ever so slightly more professional. It really depends on your setup as well. There are people who can do the box style and make that look professional with like graphics around it and ways. I prefer the style I do. I think I looked a bit awkward in those early reactions, just sitting there like this, looking down a bit, giving myself a double chin. Now my monitor's on a better monitor arm now, so it's higher up too. I mean, my confidence has definitely changed. That just comes with the territory, I think. You know, talking to camera is inherently kind of awkward when you first start off, especially at the start, because I was doing it with my phone. I'm just, you know, you're looking into the phone camera. Now I actually have a viewfinder, so I'm kind of just making eye contact with myself. That's how I'm making eye contact with you guys. Is much simpler. And of course, back then I was living with my parents and they didn't know I was making videos, so I'm like talking but being quiet. I tried to only film when I was home alone, because the embarrassment of people hearing you talk, you know, they probably would have just thought I was online playing a game with some friends, and sometimes that would be the excuse I made. where parents would be like, oh, who were you talking to? I was like, well, I was filming a video, but they don't know about the channel yet. So I was online playing a game with some friends, I think the quality has improved. I've got a proper camera now instead of using my phone's camera. I have a better mic. I did have a Blue Yeti. That was great. It lasted ages, but now I've got a Shure SM7B, which is one of like the best ones you can get, and like an audio interface for it. Just slow progression as you go along, isn't it? It works itself out. You just make small steps, and like my editing gets slowly better and better over time as well. Practice makes perfect. I think the biggest jump in quality probably was going from my phone camera to this, but the camera, it doesn't matter too much. If you're starting out, use what you have. That's exactly what I did. I used my phone, balanced it on top of just where I had some speakers, and that was how I did it. I feel like the reaction style hasn't actually changed that much. It's still very much trying to be analytical as much as I can, and I like to have the end of the video be quite lengthy still, maybe not as much as I did right at the start, but I like to have the discussion after. I don't like when there's no thoughts after, that kind of thing, where the video just ends when the movie ends. I like to have that discussion and talk about some things I didn't have a chance to talk about during the film. Of course, I do find sometimes I am repeating myself at the end of the video and say things that I say throughout, but my reaction, I feel like, is a lot less hype than some others. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some people, they go to reactions just to see the big reactions. There are some videos where I'm like that, where I get really invested, but others where I'm trying to, analyze, talk about the plot. That's what I try to do, at least. Hopefully I'm successful in that. And then the second one from RG, you created your account in 2013. What kind of videos, if any, did you upload before March 30th, 2021? And when did the idea of a reaction channel start? So before I uploaded anything reaction-y, I've had this channel since 2013, so 10 years now. That was just me watching other people's content at that time. You could probably go and find some old comments on like Mumbo Jumbo and Shishuma Void, the Minecraft YouTubers, Hermitcraft. I was big into Hermitcraft. You can probably find my old comments on there if you search long enough. But back then, the only videos were actually videos my little brother made, because my brother didn't have his own account. He used my account, and there were videos on here of like top 10 wrestlers, and it's just screenshots of Google image searches, and he's animated a little countdown from 10 to 1. And then before Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I did actually do a really bad reaction to the Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 1 trailer. That was actually my first ever reaction video. That was filmed on my phone while I'm just looking down at my iPad. It wasn't great, but that was my first real reaction video. That still got like 2.3k views. It's not up anymore because I didn't have an intro. I didn't have any of the professionalism I have now. But what got me into wanting to do this is just seeing other people's reactions. I feel like I'm kind of a reaction channel nerd. There's so many that I watch, and I thought, you know what? I've wanted to be a YouTuber for ages. I've wanted to do this. This is something I've wanted to do since I was a kid, I just thought, why not just have a crack at it? If it doesn't go well, it's fine. And then I decided Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I don't know why I decided Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I feel like it was a good first show to do because I was really invested in it. I think there was a lot of hype with reaction channels at that time because of the pandemic. It really helped the reaction genre. That's when a lot of channels really blew up. And I got lucky early on. My first movie reaction was The Sound of Metal. That did okay, but then my second one was Minari, and that really caught on with the South Korean audience because it's not a South Korean production, but it was Korean language for a lot of it. So I got a ton of Korean viewers from that video, and I got about 7k views on my second ever movie reaction. And then my third one, I'm pretty sure it was my third one, was one of the biggest on my channel for a long time was the Prince of Egypt. I think I just got lucky, got caught in a wave of hype for the Prince of Egypt, and Prince of Egypt reactions got about like 50k views on that, and that really helped my channel very early on. And then like the second part to the question was what kept me going on for the 28 months after, and I think it was just, you know, seeing the reaction to my reactions, seeing all the comments. You know, if I wasn't getting the views and the interaction from people that I don't know if I would have carried on. But because I had that quite good rolling start, it really did help. And then what are your future goals, plans for content, and possibly creative content for other formats in the future? Obviously, the next big goal is 10k. That's the next big milestone. My goals for the channel were first year 1k, second year 10k, and then whatever from there. I managed to just about do first year 1k, but now it's kind of second year 5k more than 10k. At this point, I don't think the subscribers matter as much. It's more about views. I think with how the ad system works, it's like subscribers are nice to have. It means you've got an engaged audience, but it's the views that pay, you know what I mean? If you want to do this full time, it doesn't matter how many subscribers you have, it matters how many views you're getting. I don't think there's any future plans for the channel in terms of new things. I mean, like, there's always going to be new movies, new anime, new TV shows that I react to, but there's no plan specifically for anything new. Of course, I've introduced gaming. I am maybe thinking of starting a second channel just dedicated to the gaming, so I'm not constantly spamming this channel. I don't know if maybe that's the best idea to separate the two or keep them on one channel. Maybe you guys can tell me what you think of that. But then other creative content, you know, I do a few shorts here and there on TikTok. Sometimes I'll upload them to YouTube shorts too, but I have ideas. It's just hard to get in motion at this point. I have an idea for a podcast. I think it's a really good idea. I just don't have the time or like the finances to be able to do that at the moment. It would like involve finding a co-host, maybe like hiring a musician to like score it and things, and then maybe hiring an artist as well. And there's just a lot that would go into it that I'm not ready for at this point at all. And I feel like I also just have lots of creative ideas, but then it's executing on them, finding time. I'm pumping in so much time to this channel anyway. To do something else, it would take a lot. I feel like at that point I would need to be doing YouTube full time, doing content creation full time to be able to do that and have the time, and like probably have to hire people to edit the videos for this channel instead of doing them myself. I just don't really have the time for anything else at this point, but I have so many ideas. I have ideas for like zines, as I said, for a podcast, for maybe a book, I don't know, or like a kind of collaborative kind of book thing idea that I have, but just getting those off the ground is very difficult and I just don't have the time. So they're all stored away for hopefully in the future when I can get to them. Next one is, what reaction have I been most vulnerable in since Everything Everywhere All at Once? I think for me that's gonna have to be The Whale, opening up about my history with ED and things. That's definitely it. And then after that is definitely Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's really hard, you know, on a YouTube channel when you're just talking to a camera to be so vulnerable and to talk so openly about certain things, but I try and do the best that I can, you know. And I know sometimes I kind of skirt round things or use euphemisms, but also sometimes that is because of like YouTube guidelines and things too. What films and TV shows have made you laugh the most? That's a good one, actually. I absolutely love the Cornetto trilogy. Those are hilarious. I think The World's End is the most underrated of the Cornetto trilogy, actually. And then a lot of like Taika Waititi films, What We Do in the Shadows, the TV show as well. Hunt for the Wilder People, I absolutely love. Mean Girls was probably the biggest like hysteric laughing fit I've had like on the channel, I think. Oh, not else what sure, but there's a few there for you. Next question is collab. Collabs are something I'd love to do. It's just kind of the logistics of it and, you know, knowing the other reactors well enough. There are a few reactors that I know and kind of DM and talk to a little bit, but breaking the barrier of kind of asking to do a collab is quite scary, and I don't want them to feel like I'm using them. You know, I know that is a good way to gain more of a following, is to do collabs and your audience crossovers really well, but it is very hard to do and hard to ask, and I want to make sure I know people quite well before I want to collab with them as well. And there's also like the technical aspect of how you do it. Do we hop on Discord? How do we get each other's audio? That kind of thing. Make sure we're both synced up. There's the kind of technical aspect of it as well that might be a little bit difficult too, but it is something I would like to do at some point. I know Eric from Pretty Much It is in the UK at the moment. If you're watching this, come on their channel. It'd be much easier to do it person to person, just two people sitting next to each other. Has your journey as a creator had any significant impact on your personal life or vice versa? I would say it's not actually that much. In fact, it might even be like a negative impact, where like my friends want to go to the cinema to see the Mario movie and I can't because I'm waiting to watch it here. It hasn't had a huge impact. I'm not big enough, I don't think, for it to have a big impact yet. I'm not being stopped in the street everywhere I go. I've never been recognized out in public. It's not anything that's had a huge impact yet, really. Single, yeah. What aspects of films, TV shows do you find the most fascinating in terms of technical aspects? For me, it's actually CGI and animation. So here's a fun fact. So I went to university, studied architecture. During that time, I really liked doing 3D models, building 3D models. So at that point, one of my aspirations was to get into VFX and try and apply for ILM in London, Industrial Light and Magic, one of the big VFX houses. And I bought a computer so I could practice on Blender and learn a bunch of skills, improve on my skills that I already had from my degree. And then with that computer, instead, I started doing reaction videos, and that's how I've ended up where I am now. So you never know, in another life, I would have had my names on a Star Wars credit or something like that. And you guys have seen my love for animation through my animation reactions. I always love talking about the different animators, about the Sakuga. Whenever Yutaka Nakamura is animating anything on screen, I think my arcane reactions were great for that. I really got to flex some of my knowledge with like the chromatic aberration, with some of the impact frames. There was that shot in episode 8 where it was an impact frame, but it was 20 frames long. That was so great. Yeah, I just love animation, and that kind of ties in with CGI VFX as well quite well, doesn't it? Your experience being part of the reactor or more general content creator community. I feel like with the size of my channel at the moment, there's not like a huge sense of community. There are other reactors that I talk to occasionally. Frank Freezy and we like comment on each other's videos quite a bit, and like Chachi says, I message him a bit on Twitter, and I've talked to a bit with like Eric Reacts, but there isn't like a huge sense of community, I guess. You know, it is nice occasionally reaching out. I've had like a tiny little interaction with Seb Screen and like Nick Flicks. Sorry, I'm just name dropping at this point. I've had like tiny interactions where I just like ask a question and they give a response, or I commented once on one of the Nick Flix's videos and he replied like, "Oh, love your reaction too," and that was so great because I love his videos. Knowing that he's seen maybe some of my reactions too, that's great too. Maybe that is like partially on me. I should try and reach out, DM other creators, just to have people to talk to, especially more creators that are, you know, under 10k, around my level, where we're both on like a similar page. I feel like when you reach out to the really big creators, if they don't know who you are, sometimes it can feel a bit like you're begging or something like that. It's awkward to do, you know, but sometimes maybe I should just bite the bullet. Next is travel. How often, where so far, where next? I haven't traveled a lot recently, just kind of finances. The last place I went was Cyprus, which it was lovely there, but I went there for a wedding, so I wouldn't really count that as like in travel, in like solo travel. Where I really want to go is Japan. I was planning on going to Japan at one point, then COVID hit, and the money I had saved up for Japan, I pumped into buying a computer. So there's a lot of things here where it's like things I would have done, but actually I ended up putting into the channel instead. But Japan is a huge one for me. It's just so expensive. And I have like a few like weekend trips planned to different places in the UK, but nothing like huge abroad yet. Maybe I should try and just do a few cheap flights here and there into Europe. They're quite easy to get really cheap flights for, just to spend like a long weekend away somewhere could be nice. Then next one, what do I do for a living? So apart from doing this, I do other video editing for other creators that, as seen in podcasts especially, do lots of video editing for them, all of their YouTube videos and their TikToks and things. And then I just have a regular retail job. I am a knife salesman. I've got a little knife on this shirt. I sell knives and I sell frying pans and saucepans to people. My dad is a chef, so cooking is like a big thing for me. Maybe if I wasn't a reaction channel, I would have done a cooking channel, been up there with Binging with Babish or something. And then siblings, cousins, and what do they or others in your life think about your channel, if they care at all. So I have one brother and I have loads of cousins. My channel is actually still not like a huge deal, I guess you could say. Like, my parents don't actually know about it, but my brother actually does. It's something where it's just like, oh, I should tell them now that I've reached 1,000 subscribers, but I haven't. Or I should tell them, but now I'm like, I've moved out, so it doesn't matter as much. They come around and see the room and they're like, oh, it's like a whole studio in here. I'm like, yeah, it is. But they still don't know. Maybe my brother has told them, but yeah, a lot of my friends do know. I don't think it's really affected anything in terms of like our friendship or anything. The big one is with my flatmate, who was my friend before I moved here, and he knows about the channel. Obviously, I have to say, I'm going to go record a video. Can you make sure you're quiet in the background while I'm streaming, while I'm recording? But I usually try to record while he's out. Usually I have days off work while he's at work, so I can just record like I am now and not have to worry about making too much noise or him making too much noise. So it's usually pretty fine. And this microphone that I've got, a new microphone, is quite good at isolating my voice and anything going on. PO box ? Not yet. I looked into PO boxes because I had like some inquiries about it, and it's just very expensive. It's about £40 a month, which is too expensive for me to afford. You know, that's more than I pay for like my video editing software and stuff. And I don't know if I would be a fan of receiving, it'd be nice to receive notes and letters from people, but receiving like gifts when I don't know what it's going to be, I'd feel bad for like receiving something from someone and then not using it or not really liking it, and then it just like sits on a shelf. And obviously I don't want to throw something away that someone's gifted me, but I would feel bad about getting like random things. Like, unfortunately, I'm not a huge fan of Pop Funkos, and I feel like that's something that gets gifted to YouTubers a lot. And if I got a Pop Funko, I'd be like, oh, this is so ugly, I'm sorry. It was a nice thought, but I just don't like the aesthetic of Pop Funkos. But I do have a throne wish list, which you can, if you feel like it, obviously no obligation, you can get me something from there. that way is kind of more controlled. I know what I would potentially be receiving if I'm receiving gifts. The only downside to that is, of course, you guys can't send like personalized letters or things like that. You'd only be able to send like physical objects. It would be nice to be able to just get the physical letters, but of course, don't want to expose my real address for safety reasons, and PO box is just way too expensive at this point. I can't justify it with probably how little it would be used in reality. Okay, and then finally we have some anonymous questions from Curious Cat. So the first one is, how do you balance what you see in cinemas and what to wait to react to on YouTube? Yeah, so that is something that's difficult because a lot of my friends are into films too, and they want to say go see the Mario movie. Barbie's in cinemas right now. They all want to go see Barbie. I'm so excited for Barbie, Greta Gerwig, of course, but I can't because I have to wait for the channel. There are some times where I've covered some of the MCU on my channel. I've only really covered the MCU TV shows. So I have gone to see like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and Ant-Man 3. I went to see those in cinemas. I feel like those ones are safe for me to do because you guys know I have seen them. Like I was considering at one point doing like a series on the MCU. Of course, they would all be rewatches, so it probably wouldn't be as popular as like a first time watch, a proper first time watch. But I feel like those were pretty safe to go see in the cinemas. And then it is difficult because even things that are like smaller indie projects, I'm like, oh, maybe I should react to that. Like, I remember seeing the trailer for Broker, the South Korean film. I was like, that looks really good. I really want to see that. Maybe that's one that's niche enough where I won't need to make a reaction to it. But I ended up not seeing it, maybe just because of time as well. So now if I want to watch it at home myself, it's like I might as well watch it on the channel, trying to make a video out of it or something, you know? Especially if it's a film I've heard good things about, I want to react to it and hopefully, make a really good video for it. But that's the problem. It's like if a movie's got really good word of mouth, I want to do a video on it. So anything that I want to see in the cinemas would have bad word of mouth. It's like, you don't want to go to a cinema to see a bad movie, you know? It is a difficult thing, and it has meant like I go to the cinema less since starting the channel. Obviously, that wasn't a huge deal early on in the channel because I started this during the pandemic and the cinemas weren't open, and it has helped my channel a bit because the window from a movie coming out in the cinema to being released for home video, it has shortened that window, and that has helped out my channel a lot, I think, because I can react to stuff when it is still slightly more relevant, like especially with like Everything Everywhere All at Once. I saw that, reacted to it, and then about 2 weeks later I went to the cinema and saw it because it was still in cinemas at that point. That's really helped having stuff come out sooner, and I know it's like not good for the cinemas. It's really conflicting for me because I'm like, oh, I wish movies would stay in the cinemas longer so they would get good box office numbers and it would support the films. But then also I want to watch them selfishly. I want to watch them on the channel as well and have them while they're more relevant on the channel. So it's a real like conflicting thing there for me. Then the next question is hair routine for the amazing curls. Well, first off, thank you. I mean, they don't look that great in this video. It really depends if I've had a hair day that day or not. I'll show you what I use, I guess. I do the curly girl routine. Anyone with curly hair knows. I use the, Tresemme Rich Moisture Conditioner. Use that to co-wash. And then after my shower, I use this coconut oil, Palmer's coconut formula, and then I use just the Boots curl cream. This stuff is great. It's £2 for this jar, and this jar has probably lasted me about a year. And you just kind of run it through your hair while it's wet, let it dry, and kind of scrunch it, and it works really great for hold and stuff. That's my routine. It's not much, and I know it's not perfect. I need to change my conditioner because I don't think it's properly curly girl method approved, but there you go. I won't ramble on about that for too much because it's probably boring to everyone else who doesn't have curly hair. Next is, who is your favorite YouTuber inside and outside of the reactor community? So I'm a huge fan of reaction channels, a huge reaction channel nerd. Up there, you know, Nick Flicks, love his videos, Seb Screen as well, James versus Cinema, pretty much it. There's so many, too many for me to name. Maybe I'll just have a scrolling list of all of the ones I'm subscribed to on screen as well, but probably my favorite of all of the reaction channels is Film Buff. He's one of my big inspirations for this. You probably know him for his infamous 2-hour long Attack on Titan videos where like 10 minutes of it is actually reaction and the other hour 50 minutes is just discussion and analyzing it. That's what I really love, and something that I want to do on my channel. Obviously my videos are not as long as that. The closest I've come is probably the Lord of the Rings videos, but I love that. Just being also able to deep dive into it after the fact, after you've done the reaction portion, doing a great reaction and then a great discussion after. And that's something I really want to recreate with my videos as well. If I'm just a tenth as perspective and analytical as him, I think I'm doing well, you know. And then outside of the reaction channels, right now I'm really loving Jetlag the Game. Ben and Adam are my favorite. It's so great. They're just done season 6 from right now, and I really recommend their channel. Is so great. That's one thing I had an idea for as well, is how to do a London game, and I was like, oh, that would be a really fun set of videos and like a fun channel to do, like a jet lag dupe, basically, a channel inspired by them. And then I love a lot of video essays as well. If I wasn't doing reactions, maybe I would have delved into video essays too. There are so many great video essayists. I don't know if you can see right up here, I have Nerd Writer's book. Oh, I've got Binging with Babish's book. I mentioned him earlier as well. So there's a lot of channels that I love. This is Chris Stuckman's book as well. I think that's his first book, The 50 Movie to See Before You Die. Quite an old one for him, but there you go. I like to have them on display in the background here, you know. Also, maybe check out my Instagram. I have like a tour of this whole bookshelf, everything that's on there, if you want to check that out, if that's something you're interested in. Okay, next one is, what is the best thing you've seen not on the channel? Is there anything you wish you could erase from memory to react to? There probably are a lot of things I wish I could react to for the first time. Like, I had already seen most of Attack on Titan before starting the channel. I've done season 4 part 2 onwards, but I wish I did have that back catalogue of all of those early episodes, and that probably would really help the channel kind of in terms of views and stuff as well, because there's so many great episodes in there that probably would have had great reactions, like season 2 episode 6 Warrior, and the kind of tail end of season 3 part 2 with Hero, Midnight Sun, Perfect Game. Those 3 episodes in a row are so good. Maybe the best 3 episode run in all of TV history, you know what I mean? And one of the best things I've seen not on the channel, probably the movie Flea. If any of you guys have seen that, I went to see that on World Movie Day where they had really cheap tickets to things. I think I saw it for only like £3, and I went to this lovely, absolutely lovely cinema and saw it there, and it was so great. Cried my eyes out. Never thought the sight of a gay club would make me weep like a baby, but there you go. And then also, like, I went to see Jojo Rabbit. I went to the first screening of Jojo Rabbit in the UK at a film festival here. That was so great. I don't know if I'd give up that opportunity to have my first reaction be on the channel, but that is something that would make for a great reaction as well. I've seen so many great reactions to that too. But of course, a lot of these movies that I've seen are part of building my love for movies. Without seeing them outside of the channel, I wouldn't have had the love for movies that I have and have started the channel now, you know what I mean? Next is, who is your favorite movie director? This is a really hard one. For a long time, my answer would have been Taika Waititi. I think for Love and Thunder, although that doesn't ruin the rest of his films, the rest of his films are so good, it almost like made me lose a tiny bit of respect for him in a way. Just in the way he talked about it in interviews and stuff. I still love the rest of his work. As I just mentioned, Jojo Rabbit, Hunt for the Wilder People was one of my first reactions as well. I think that might have been the first video I did where it was a movie I'd already seen before. And then What We Do in the Shadows is amazing. Absolutely love Edgar Wright as well. I think they're both kind of similar in their humor. I really love that kind of sense of humor. Greta Gerwig, if she nails Barbie, which I've heard she has, that's free for me. Lady Bird is maybe one of my favorite films of all time. It's definitely up there, definitely like top 5. Lady Bird is just amazing. It's crazy, like I've only seen 2 of her films, but she is definitely up there. I really want to see more of Guillermo del Toro's work. I feel like he could be up there after seeing Pinocchio, and you know, he loves a bit of fan service as well in a way. You know, Shape of Water was great, Pinocchio was great, they're like the big Oscar ones, but then, you know, there's Pacific Rim thrown in there, and I love kaiju and Power Rangers and that kind of thing. So to be able to throw those fun things in there as well and still have them be really good, like, you know, Pacific Rim is fun and there's big action fights, but I still think it's really good as well. There's that kind of adage of the one for me, one for them things that a lot of directors do, and I feel like he does that a lot as well. Any tips for starting a YouTube channel / reaction channel? I think, although this is like the clichéest cliche ever, every time I see this question asked, the YouTube always says, just start. That really is what you have to do. You just have to bite the bullet and go for it. Nothing happens until you click that record button. Even if it's really bad at the start, just start from there. And for the start of your channel, actually, it's better to go quantity over quality. I know that is kind of counterintuitive, but don't spend loads of time wasted on just like making a really good intro, making sure you've got like theme music for yourself and that you've got like a really good camera and audio setup. Just start from nothing, make loads of videos, and it's practice makes perfect. You want to get all of that practice condensed, done as much as you can, because your first 100 videos will be bad. Your first 100 videos will be awful, and then you'll start to get good. So you want to do all of those bad videos as quickly as you can right at the start. And then like specific for reaction channels, there probably are a few like really technical things I could say, like don't show more than 7 seconds of footage, make the footage between 10 and 7 seconds if you want to avoid copyright. But I think what's really important is you deciding your reaction style. For me, I've found with reaction channels, it's always how you balance substance and spectacle. Do you want a channel that's more spectacle, where you're really energetic and having huge reactions to things, or do you want to have more substance where you're like analyzing and talking more about it? It's kind of where on that sliding scale do you line? I hope I try and be a bit more analytical, a bit more substance, but with some spectacle. You know, some reactions I do have big reactions, or reactions where I cry and things like that. You have to have a little bit of both. You can't just be purely analytical and not show any emotions in your reactions, and you can't just be completely spectacle where you're not really paying attention to what's happening and you haven't learned any characters' names. You know, there is a balance between there. You just have to decide where on that sliding scale you lie, really. The next question is, how much have you made from YouTube? I don't know if I want to give you specific numbers, but all I will say is I haven't made enough money to break even. So everything that I've bought for the channel, buying new cameras, buying new mics, buying my PC from the start, I have just about broke even from that. And even then, I'm like buying new equipment. I've just bought, I mean, it's only cheap. It's like a 10 quid HDMI switcher, so I can switch between my Switch and my PS5. So I can switch between what's being captured on my capture card. But I am like just about breaking even, and then from now maybe I'll start actually making a profit from the channel, and that's like 2.5 years into the channel. So that gives you an idea. I don't want to go into specific numbers, but a lot of the money I make from the channel is reinvested back into the channel as well, you know. And then the final question here is merch, question mark. I've thought about it and I just don't think it's quite the time yet. I'm not sure what I would do for merch. If I want to do merch, I want to do it right. And I just feel like I don't really have like a catchphrase or anything. Like, what would I personally put on a t-shirt or something? I'm not sure. I don't even have like a catchphrase or a running gag on the channel, which is pretty crazy actually. Like 2.5 years in, I can't think of like a running gag or a catchphrase or something like that. Maybe I need to do a bit more work in developing a catchphrase or something. I also just don't think there's much demand at this point. You don't want to set it all up and then have lots of t-shirts lying around in your apartment, or if you're doing it print on demand, you want to make sure there's enough demand for them, really. So I think not yet, but that is something I would be interested in, because I do like fashion. It would be cool to be able to design my own merch, or design my own, like go a Teddy Fresh route and design my own like fashion brand, you know what I mean? That would be really cool. There is one idea for something I've had. I wouldn't really call it merch. I don't know if I will do it, but I was thinking of using my family tree that I make for the dark reactions and like really polishing that up and doing that as like a poster for the biggest fans. But those videos, they're still, you know, they're not getting loads of views. They're getting like 1,000 views for the really good, well-performing episodes. I just don't think that's enough to warrant that, really, unless I do it like print on demand and sell like 2 or 3. So that's everything, all of the questions. Thank you for watching. And of course, a big thank you for getting me to this milestone. I wouldn't be here without you guys watching my videos, watching along, leaving comments. If there's any other questions you have, if you didn't get a chance to ask them, leave them in the comments below and I'll just reply to them if I can. So yeah, thanks again, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. See you guys later.